How do we unpick a variation like this? Before doing that, I'd like just for a moment to talk about studying flamenco guitar in general. One of the most important things you have to do is listen as much as you possibly can to the best players. And it's not good enough to simply put your fingers on the guitar and play the notes. You have to understand the ideas and the thought processes behind the notes in order to get a good performance. Otherwise, if you don't know why you're playing the notes, then you're not going to play them in a meaningful way. And that is important. So, by looking at this simple variation of mine, well, it starts simple and I build it up, make it more complicated. You can see the ideas that went into it. And there's a whole load of different ideas players can use. So this isn't a template. There is no template that fits all situations. Only through experience and listening as much as possible can you start to get close to the truth. Flamenco may seem impenetrable when you first come across it or first hear it. But there are ways to unpick the ideas and build up a repertoire of ideas of your own. So here, this falsetto, or rather it's a variation for the compass. It begins with a very simple bass line which uses 10 notes. We start with the notes A, B, C, G, A, B, A, G, F, E. And I will play those notes for you now. This is very simple. An absolute beginner could learn this in the first week. So, now to make it more interesting, I added some chords using an arpeggio. The arpeggio I used was P-A-M-I on the middle strings, or on the internal strings, rather. Because we have 4 notes, then there are 4 notes in each beat at this stage. So, also the chords that I used was like an F, or part of an F, the middle 2 fingers on the middle 2 strings, and then I move over to a G7 and I go back to the F. Okay, the 3rd finger never moves off the 3rd fret of the 4th string until the final Soleares, which I'll talk about when we come to it. So, because the middle 2 fingers are now occupied, we only have 2 fingers available that are free to play the melody. So things get a little bit tight in sometimes. Let me just demonstrate this. We have 1st finger, 4th finger. At this point, it's a bit tricky as well because there's a tight gap here. That 2nd finger has to get through the tight gap between the 1st and 3rd fingers. It has to step through to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And now, instead of using the open string for the A, I use the 4th finger on the 6th string. The B is already pretty much in place, I think. I was close at least. And then we have to step back with the 2nd finger because we're going to go back over here to this chord. So we have the A open this time. And the 4th finger has to play the 3rd fret. The 1st finger is close to the F. And then I added the remate. or Soleares. So the variation started out as a simple bass line and is now going to sound more interesting. This is a perfectly acceptable variation. You don't have to make it any more difficult than this. You could just play that, and trust me, if you play it at speed at least, your audience are going to love it. I hope. So, but we can make it more interesting still. And what I did with these seeds, let's call them, I decided to add some legato, some hammers and some pulls. So I decided to hammer or pull every note in the melody. So I play here, instead of the B straight away, I play a hammer there. That means I have to play the A string an extra time and hammer. So that hammer introduces an extra note in every pulse. So instead of 4 notes in the pulse, we now have 5 notes in every pulse. I'll play part of it. At this point, I cheat. There are ways to not cheat, but I'm happy to cheat at this point for 2 reasons. One is, nobody's going to notice, and it's a bit easier perhaps if you cheat. And the other reason is because it breaks the sequence a little bit. It introduces some nuances within. You're not just repetitively repeating the same idea all the time. So instead of hammering or pulling the G here, what I do is I just pull off this 4th finger, which is on the 5th string, and play the G instead. Let me demonstrate that. So I can keep the 5 notes going, give myself a little bit of extra time to make that awkward step through, just by using my 4th finger to play the open A string. Okay, now let me go as far as that and carry on. And I hammer the A and the B from the open string. And to make it a little bit more interesting, less repetitive, I decided to flatten the B and pull that and sharpen the F and hammer the G from the 2nd to the 3rd fret. This part is just standard, and then the remate. But because the remate is 2 notes in every beat, and everything before was 5 notes in every beat, I thought it needs a special remate. It needs something interesting to keep the flow going. So instead of this 2 notes in every beat, I came up with this 5 notes in every beat, followed by full bay with the last note on 12. So I'm now going to play it slowly, first without the legatos, and then with the changes that I added at the end. This becomes that is everything that went into this falsetto. And other falsettos, sometimes they're pliable. They allow you to do this. You can add the notes, the tricky notes later. You can just get the main idea. You can get the hands in position. Play the important notes. Make sure the compass is good. There's notes which are just there to decorate an idea often. You can add them. You don't have to play all the notes in the beginning. What you have to do is get the notes in the right place to get the right feeling behind the notes. And then you can build it up. And the sky is the limit. Pues, hasta la próxima.